In the first episode I posted for Safety Week, I showed you what could happen when kickback happens at a saw. I showed you my injury. Now, in this episode, I'm going to show you what to do about it. Okay, my accident was in September, and I didn't touch the table saw till February, so that was 5 months without using the table saw. I was pretty much just scared of this thing. I have a fear and respect for this machine. I probably should have had it all along. We're going to take a look to see what I can do to tune up the saw, to not only make it more accurate, but safer. Okay, we're going to pull out this table saw to see what happened that dreaded day in September. Kickback on a table saw mainly occurs when you are doing a rip cut. And as you're feeding the board through, either a couple things happen. Tension in the board is released, or improper adjustments, the back of the table saw blade catches the wood and flings it out at a high rate of speed. You can go on YouTube and Google kickback, and you'll get plenty of examples of this happening. Okay, the first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and read your owner's manual. If you don't feel comfortable doing any of this, stop. Find somebody who has tuned up a saw before and ask them to give you a hand. Now, there's a couple things that can cause kickback on a saw. One of them being improper fence alignment. If the fence is not parallel with the blade, it could pinch the board, causing kickback. Another area where we can have some problems is in between the miter slot and the blade. If these two areas aren't parallel, we can run into some problems that can cause some kickback. Okay, another major violation, I took this off my saw. It's my splitter, my anti-kickback pawls, and my safety guard. Now this hit the blade when I was making a cut. Scared the bejeebus out of me, and so I took the whole thing off. Probably shouldn't have done that. I could have probably taken the plastic guard but kept the anti-kickback balls and the splitter, which would have helped kickback. Now I can't use those in all cuts, only through cuts, but I think we really need to get that back on the saw. So let's get started. Okay, to adjust this, you would take a combo square and stick it in the miter slot and use it to mark the first tooth. I don't have a long enough combination square, so I'm actually going to use my thin rip jig. And I'm going to bring it up so it just kisses this one tooth, and it does. And I'm going to go ahead and mark that tooth with a little Sharpie. Okay, move the tooth to the back. This will account for any warpage in the blade, if there is any. And we're going to bring this up to the tooth. And you can see right there, we're way off. Now, if it just kisses that back tooth, you're aligned. But I don't even clear the carbide. I'm probably off 1/16 of an inch. But if it's grossly out of alignment, like my saw is here, we have to go ahead and adjust it to bring it back in alignment. On my small saw, and most small saws, you go ahead and adjust the trunnion. On a larger cabinet saw, you would adjust the tabletop. Okay, they're hard to see, but there are 2 bolts right here. Right? 1, 2. These are the bolts I adjust the trunnion. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and loosen these bolts. This trunnion's a pain in the neck to adjust. I could only get to 2 of the trunnion bolts, so I had to completely take my saw off my saw station. So I flipped it up here to get to the underside, where I could actually access all 4 bolts for the trunnion. There are 2 on the front that I could get to, but I couldn't get to the 2 in the back, so I really couldn't make an accurate adjustment. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and actually undo only 1 back here and undo these 2. That'll allow me to pivot everything into alignment. Now here is the back trunnion underneath that I couldn't get to. I'm just going to go ahead and loosen it. just enough. So when I go ahead and undo the other two, the whole assembly will move freely. Okay, I flipped the saw back over, and now I can go ahead and make my adjustments. Now the whole trunnion assembly is much looser now, and I can actually see it move. It doesn't move much, but it moves enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the test again, just clearing that front. Bring that blade around. And tighten it down. And now I can see, we'll test it again. Okay, we can see it just nicks there. Just nicks there too. We're aligned. We were off about 32nd to a 16th of an inch. And that right there alone could have caused that kickback. So we're aligned. I'm just going to go tighten up this trunnion. Okay, I'll flip it back over and I'll retest it again to make sure I didn't knock anything loose before I reattach it back to my stand. To check to see if the fence is aligned, you're just going to slide it up and check the gap. And it looks like we're pretty good. Okay, now that the blade is in alignment and the fence is all good, the blade was about a 16th off, and that was the cause of our kickback right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put back on the splitter and the anti-kickback pawls. Now, the problem I had with this particular guard, and the reason I took it off originally, was there's too much flex in this plastic, and I was doing a cut and it got caught and pushed the plastic into the blade. Now I'm going to put it back on. I could take it off. You could take these bolts off. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it together for now. If it still becomes a problem, I will take the plastic guard off the splitter and the anti-kickback pawls. Still use the anti-kickback balls. I don't recommend you take any plastic guard off of any of your saws. This one just seemed to be a little more dangerous to me than actually not having it there. But I got to get the splitter back on. So right here we have two bolts. They hold in the splitter. Now the wrench that came with my saw has a little nut thing here, and that's to go ahead and loosen these. And we're just going to tighten them or loosen those completely. Okay, part of the problem with this type of splitter is now it's really a pain in the neck to get this on. And unlike a riving knife, I can't keep this in for all types of cuts. I need to remove it for non-through cuts, dados, etc. It's kind of a pain in the neck. More modern saws, a little more expensive saws, this comes out in a breeze. You basically flip a lever and yank the whole thing out. This, no wonder nobody keeps them on. If I had to do this every time I had to go, and I do have to do this every time I have to go from a non-through cut to a through cut, it can be a pain in the neck. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten this down. There are also some shims back there that you use to get this to line up with the blade. So I'm going to go ahead and finish tightening this down. Okay, another issue using the riving knife is, here's the standard plate, but when I go to use the zero clearance plate, I need to cut a slot in the back. And that slot will allow for the riving knife. Board won't slip. Okay, another thing we can do to make our saw even safer is buy or get accessories for safety. Here I bought a 4-piece safety kit from Rockler. Comes with various components, push blocks, even a push stick. Let's go ahead and set up the featherboard. Okay, attach these together. These go in the miter slot. And what that does is when I tighten these down, it locks into position. And as the board rides here, it keeps the board from kicking back this way. It helps hold that board and help prevent kickback. Now, I bought this one because I liked how it went into the miter slot, but you can go ahead and make your own. Basically, I did this on the bandsaw, and it has the same effect. And push it in, kick it a little bit, and these you would clamp down. I use this one over at the router table sometimes. But you can go ahead and make your own. You don't have to buy them. Okay, another safety feature you can use is these push blocks. I basically will push the board through with these. I have two sizes. This one's for a little smaller one. This one's a bad habit. This one has lasted me quite a long time. And I basically make these myself. They're real simple. You just cut a notch in the back and it will grip onto the board as you feed the board through. Real simple. My kit came with this one. This one might be good for some small boards. I don't like it as much as these because these not only put pressure in the back but up here too, right? With this, you know, it's not quite as good. I'm going to keep it and use it for smaller things. I like how it gets my hand really high up for that small stuff. But majority make them. These were scrap pine. This is a scrap piece of 1/2-inch ply. They work great. I've had them for years. So simple accessory, but really get your hands away from that blade. When they're done and I've went through these and chewed them up, I'll make some more. It's a simple way to get added safety right there on your table saw. Okay, I hope the tune-up to my table saw not only added safety, but accuracy. I think these safety features are really going to help. Now, my thumb is cleared up. The nail is okay and everything is kind of back to normal. I have a little feeling loss in the tip, but the memory of that hasn't faded. So I'm going to treat this thing with a little more respect. I think it deserves it. Should have done it all along. Now, I've also, not using this saw for months, have found other ways to do things. There's nothing wrong with grabbing a hand saw to just rough rip a board or head over to the bandsaw, you know, to make a cut that I probably would have done over here. So, you know, I'm going to find safer ways of doing things throughout the shop, not just at the table saw. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by my shop. Locked into the blade and whew! Scared the bejeebus out of me. Okay, now that the blade's all back in alignment and the fence is okay, we're going to go ahead and put back on the splitter.